Clone High, the funny little cartoon about teenagers that are clones of historical figures like Joan of Arc, Abraham Lincoln, and the infamous JFK. Back in 2020, when the pandemic was making us stay in our houses, I stumbled upon a bunch of silly memes across the internet. All of them involved the same character, JFK. I found them so funny, and I even loved the character's voice. It was just so goofy. It's like every time I went on my phone or computer, I could not escape this silly little goober. But what 15-year-old me didn't know at the time was that those memes would lead me to find a show that was really ahead of its time. A show that had a wonderful cast of characters. A show that was so funny but yet clever with its comedy. A show that had cool storylines. And a beautiful soundtrack. And the thing that appealed to me the most was that this show had an amazing concept. Putting the clones of historical figures in high school and seeing what silly little things they can get up to. Parodying teen dramas while they were at it, and digging deeper into the characters and what it's like for them to be in the shadows of someone far greater than them. And you know what else? This show was created by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Yeah, the guys who directed, Into the Spider-Verse, 21 Jump Street, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and the Lego Movie. So this show was right up my alley because I love Lord and Miller's content. So, of course I would love Clone High. It had the same style of humor Lord and Miller use throughout their projects, and that made Clone High perfect. And it made me love every second of it. If you told me Clone High was made around, let's say, the mid-2000s, late 2010s, or hell, even 2020, I would have believed you. So it was such a huge surprise for me when I found out that the show aired in 2002 on MTV. So I wondered for a few seconds, why did Clone High get canceled so early? Hopefully it's not too bad of a reason, right? We all know the story at this point. Clone High had an abrupt cancellation in 2003 because India was not happy with how Gandhi was portrayed. In the show, Gandhi was a party animal and a fun goober who always got into some crazy hijinks. Not to mention, he was super hyper because of his ADD. So they went on a huge hunger strike to protest this portrayal. Cause in real life, Gandhi was such an amazing person, especially to minors and women. He was like a Genshin Impact fan. It was so bad that the protesters threatened to take away MTV's broadcasting license in India if the show didn't get cancelled. So, Clone High was taken away from the world too early, and it got left into obscurity. Until the internet popularized it again, baby! And from then on, Clone High got popular again because of us Zoomers, and the memes throughout the times. Therefore, it gained a cult following throughout the years. However, it only reached its full popularity in 2020. Sure, Clone High got popular with Gen Z, but Season 2 seemed like a dream, something that would never come to fruition. So imagine my excitement when I found out that after 20 years, Clone High was getting the Season 2 it deserved on Max. I get to see my favorite characters again, except Gandhi. I also wondered how the drama between Joan, Abe, Cleo, and JFK would continue. Will the comedy evolve after all these years? What storylines do they have for these modern times? I was thinking of so many different possibilities, so many new episodes that would become my favorites over time. However, I started having doubts when I saw the new characters. I could recognize Frida immediately, but I was confused about the other two characters. Why are all three of them so eye-straining to look at? Why are they so ugly? They don't even feel like they're a part of Clone High. Who are they? No. Don't tell me. That's Harriet Tubman? How? Like, there is no indicator that tells me this is Harriet Tubman. And that's Confucius? Huh? What's going on? You know what? Maybe it won't be that bad. Maybe I could forgive the ugly designs if these characters become fleshed out. I'm just gonna wait and see. And then, Season 2 came out. And oh boy, do I sure have a lot of things to say. Yeah, Season 2 was not that good. In the beginning, I was in extreme stages of copium with this season, telling myself that it would get better, but it never did. Telling myself that the new characters are fine, that I can get used to them, but I never did, except Topher Bus. And even after it ended, I tried to like it. Believe me, I did. I tried to give it a chance, but after rewatching some episodes from Clone High Season 1, I've come to realize just how much this reboot has ruined the legacy of Clone High. And it has even forgotten its very own roots. So come join me today on this torturous but yet sad journey. Let's laugh and shiver and cry as we delve into Clone High Season 2. First of all, they have butchered the old characters beyond recognition. Oh boy, where do I even start? First, there is Abe. In Season 1, Abe was a very awkward teen, and he was pretty oblivious to a lot of things, like Joan being in love with him, or Cleo clearly manipulating him. He also cared for a lot of people, regardless if they were even nice or mean to him. And sure, he may have been super in love with Cleo, to the point where he can forget about others, but Abe always came around at the end, to care for his best friends, Joan and Gandhi. Also, he tried to be a conflict resolver, even though at the end of the day, he sucked at it. Overall, what I'm trying to say is that even though Abe was naive and oblivious, he always meant well. It's what made his character super likable to me. What a great personality for this character, right? Well, let's devolve him down to just being in love with Joan. Oh yeah, and make him super insensitive, selfish, and just a terrible person in general. Who thought this was a good idea? Throughout this whole season, I have just despised Abe because they made him so unlikable and out of character. And for some reason, he has also been devolved down to this punching bag. So he is both pitiful and annoying to watch. Like in episode 1. By the way, it's an episode about cancel culture. He is the most heartless out of all the clones that have been frozen for 20 years. And let's be honest, if this was in character Abe, he wouldn't be doing that. He would be more sympathetic, and knowing Abe would be much more careful with his words, since he always seeked approval from others. Like, it's weird to hear Abe just say the R slur like out of nowhere, or the S slur, or even say the word gay in a mean way. Hell, in the original show, Abe wouldn't even say the word sex without spelling it out like a middle schooler. That's how naive and nice he was originally. In reality, I think the role for someone not doing their best to get with the times would be more for someone like JFK or Joan. And speaking of Joan, let's also talk about how they ruined my precious goth girl. Joan was originally very cynical and introverted. Additionally, she was the character with the most common sense in the original series. She was also in love with Abe. But something that I enjoyed about her was how she was willing to give up her desires to make Abe happy, even if it meant that he was with Cleo. She also always wanted to be her authentic self, and cared less for popularity. All she usually cared about was her friends, Abe, and doing the right thing, which also made her super likable. But something that made her special to me is how much I could relate to her. Sure, she always advocated for being yourself, but sometimes she would be willing to give that up for Abe. Like when she acted like a stereotypical popular girl just to get his attention, or got with JFK just to make him jealous. It was so sad but yet interesting to watch, because it felt like she was chasing after something that, let's be honest, would never come true. Something that almost all of us have gone through. This is why in the finale episode, I was so happy for her, because JFK saw Joan for who she was, showing that yes, there is a happy ending for her after all. But here's the thing, in the finale, it felt like she only slept with JFK because she was trying to run away from the painful feeling of being hurt by Abe, not because she actually liked JFK. Let me tell you something. Season 1 Joan would absolutely despise Season 2 Joan. Like, they absolutely ruined her, and it makes me super angry. First of all, they made her a popular girl now? And also, this wasn't like a smooth transition or anything. No. Right off the bat, in episode 1, Joan is a popular girl. And she accepts it immediately. Like, huh? What also makes her super out of character is that she gets along with characters like Harriet and Frida. Characters that Season 1 Joan would utterly despise for being obnoxious and popular. And for some reason, she's more social now. Again, they didn't develop her to be like this. She just got this new personality out of nowhere in episode 1. She also became selfish in her own way too. She pushes Abe away just to keep her popularity status, something the original Joan of Arc would never do. She didn't even speak up for him when he got cancelled. What happened to the Joan that had logical thinking skills or spoke up for what was right? Oh yeah, and she also got with JFK. Now, if the writers found a way to naturally develop her feelings for JFK, I wouldn't mind. Or hell, if they even wrote the relationship in a fun way, I also wouldn't mind. I feel like her relationship with JFK would have developed into an amazing arc for Joan. However, this is super rushed, because in the finale, she was still hurt over Abe. The only reason I see her honestly liking JFK now is because he is popular and for the something Season 1 Joan would absolutely detest, because it goes against everything she originally stood for. In the original Clone High, Joan loved Abe because he had a great personality, and she was his friend. Also, they've known each other for so long, so of course she would develop feelings for him. And also, because she enjoyed Abe as a person, and they had amazing chemistry. But no, let's devolve her down to just liking a dude because of superficial things. Oh, and finally, she has no sense of respect for herself in this new season. In episode 6, Joan finds out that JFK cheated on her with her best friend Harriet Tubman. Now, at first, she is mad, but then forgives them easily because they were honest, and instead of getting mad at them or ashamed at them, she takes out this anger on Abe for not telling her, which is quite understandable, of course, but why does she go back to JFK at the end of the episode after knowing what he did? Oh yeah, as of right now, 3 characters have a crush on her: Topher Bus, Abe, and JFK. So not only did the writers make her bland and boring, they also objectified her so most of the male cast can thirst over her. I'm actually gonna get super angry. Okay, let me calm down and let's just talk about JFK before I lose my mind. Originally, JFK was created to make fun of the stereotypical popular boy that we often saw on teen dramas. He was a ladies' man, a jock, a bully to the underdogs, and was very good looking. Essentially, he had all the basic traits of a popular boy. Something that I found clever on the writer's part is that they put a clone of JFK for this type of character. The real-life JFK was also known to be a ladies' man, and super popular because of his good looks at the time, so it made sense. While sure, JFK was popular, he was also pretty airheaded, which made his character super funny, because he would be oblivious to the most obvious of things. Also, he had the little iconic voice with the funny ers and ahs. While sure, on the surface, JFK was the funny haha popular boy, it would also be revealed in certain episodes that JFK had a soft side to him. One he wouldn't often show because he always wanted to play up this tough persona. I really wanted JFK's character to be explored more in season 2 because it was clear that being the clone of JFK was affecting him in many different ways. Maybe these emotions could have been explored more if his relationship with Joan was, written well. And you know what? Now his personality is just jokes. No, I'm not kidding. That's all he is now. Like in season 2, he has no other traits besides sex jokes. Everything with him is just kissing and ass and tits, and that's it. And his whole life also revolves around Joan as well. Wow. Very awesome changes, Clone High writers. Sure, the original JFK made sex jokes, but they were actually funny, clever, and well thought out. And also, it didn't get annoying because that wasn't his only personality or even joke. It's like the new writers watched the old show and went, oh yeah, he's a guy who just loves sex, and forgot the parts where he actually has, game with the ladies, like the real life JFK had. Now JFK is just a boring character that just makes sex jokes, and that's the punchline, because apparently the writers are in middle school and sex is very hilarious. Yes, I know, so funny, haha. I'm getting Velma PTSD. Please, help me! This is very gut-wrenching to watch, because I genuinely was hoping they would find a way to expand JFK's character, just like the original series was hinting at. Also, he doesn't do the funny ers and uhs anymore. Like, that's what got his character super popular in the first place. Why take it away? And like I kind of said before, since both JFK and Joan are super boring and terrible now, they have lost all the potential they could have done with their relationship. JFK should have gotten a proper arc from this relationship. Hell, their main appeal was literally because they are complete opposites, and they could have done so many interesting conflicts between the two with this concept. That is, if they kept their original personalities, though. But, as we all saw, none of the original characters kept their personalities, especially Cleopatra. Cleopatra. What was she like? Well, originally, Cleopatra was the stereotypical popular girl that had all the attention. If she wanted a certain boy to date her, she knew she could get him with her smart and manipulative personality. So, she would play up her good looks and fake feelings to get anyone to do whatever she wanted for her. Cleo would also use her seductive voice to get more boys. She was also this narcissistic person who felt she was better than everyone. And you know what? All of those things made her a really fun antagonist for this show. They would often also exaggerate her fake facade and even voice to make it obvious that she doesn't really care about others. Which would be super funny when someone like Abe, for example, fell in love with her, because it's like super surface level that she doesn't care about him, but he's too oblivious to see it. Oh, how funny. Well, Forget about all of that, because the writers found ways to devolve her down to a stereotypical psycho girl. Again, this wasn't a smooth transition either. For example, in episode 4, season 2, Cleo mind controls the whole school to like her? Why? Season 1 Cleo didn't need all of that power, because she already had it with her facade and beauty. There is no point in making her this psychopath. In episode 5, they make fun of a thing called white guy confidence, because the background dancers are, well, bad at dancing. So the dancers get this white guy confidence potion to get better confidence. One of those background dancers, though, just happens to include Cleo. What? Cleo would not need some dumb potion to get the confidence she already had. Gotta love how the writers just put down Cleopatra to also have zero confidence. Oh, and her seductive voice? It disappeared, cause Cleo now has a new voice actress, and oh my goodness, she completely missed the mark when it comes to her voice. Her seductiveness has now been replaced with a generic sassy girl voice, and it's so annoying. Oh yeah, and her intelligence? Gone as well with the rest of her personality. Forget the narcissistic girl that had confidence and always knew how to get her way through her smartness and manipulation. Let's now make her a generic, sassy, popular girl that's super dumb and doesn't have very great confidence, and is insane. Oh my god. And I have not even begun to talk about the new clones. However, one of the new ones has officially become, funnily enough, one of my favorite characters to come out from this season. The reason why I find this funny is because I think he was meant to be an unlikable character, but he turned out to be one of the most beloved, and I want to give him his own section in this video, because he is like one of the only good things to come from this season. But he too has wasted potential. Okay, let's start with these ugly character designs. When I first saw the clones of Frida, Confucius, and Harriet, I genuinely could not believe my eyes. Why do they have so many colors? And why are they so eye-straining to look at? All three of them stick out from the main cast. Like, every time these three interacted with the old clones, they always felt so out of place, because their designs just don't harmonize with the old ones. For f***'s sake, after watching 10 episodes of this garbage, I still can't get used to their designs. Also, they don't even look like the people they are cloned from. But, I'll admit, Frida does kind of actually look like her clone mother because she has the iconic unibrow and mustache. But hey, at least the real-life Frida had actual good fashion taste. Harriet and Confucius, on the other hand, look nothing like the people they are supposed to be. Something that I have always loved about the Clone High character designs is how I can recognize who they are cloned from just by looking at them. For example, Joan has the recognizable bob haircut like the real Joan of Arc had. Abe has the recognizable big ears and beard of the real Abraham Lincoln. Also, he is super tall because the real Abraham Lincoln was the tallest US president ever. So it makes sense for him to look like this. Gandhi had bald hair and glasses like the real-life Gandhi. You get my point. The characters for Clone High were well thought out and designed, and looked appealing. Look me in the eyes and tell me, how is this supposed to be Harriet Tubman and Confucius? The real-life Harriet Tubman did not have poofy hair like that. And where's Confucius's long beard and long eyebrows? These designs were not well thought out. If anything, the old designs for Harriet and Frida at least were 10 times better than the current designs we have right now. Because holy crap, at least those two don't actually look eye-straining and have features that actually look like the historical figures they are cloned from. Though the old Confucius has not aged well, and they had the opportunity to change him into a cool-looking Confucius and just made him super ugly. Okay, Ricky, we get it. But what type of personalities do these new characters have? Are they likable? Are they fun? Are they interesting? Well, let me tell you, these guys are very flat when it comes to their personalities. First off, we have Harriet Tubman. What's she like? Well, she is very hardworking, and her biggest flaw is that she works too hard for her grades because she doesn't want to become a wine mom. Frida Kahlo. Her personality, and I'm not joking here, is just that she's chill. And the only times she isn't chill is when she is around her crush, Cleopatra. Oh yeah, and what's her flaws? Well, her flaw is that she is just too chill and is scared that her laid-back personality could cause her to not care for others. I'm falling asleep, bro. Confucius. His only personality is tied to social media. That's literally it. What's his flaw? He uses too much social media and wants to have a real friendship in real life. Now, this could be a cool concept to explore. But here's the issue. Confucius is literally friends with 5 of the main cast characters. So he literally has 0 flaws, and his social media addiction does not even affect his friendships. Nobody cares or even worries about this, because it's all fine and dandy, and these characters are lazily written. Out of all the 4 new clones, 3 of them are like paper cardboard when it comes to their personalities, and they are not interesting or even fun to watch in the slightest. Wanna know another thing that isn't fun about this season? It's comedy. Ah, yes, the comedy of Clone High Season 2, and I'm not exaggerating here, has officially become very lazy, and its humor is now influenced by every cliche adult cartoon ever. Clone High Season 1 had comedy that was, funny and clever, and it was very unpredictable, which is why it appealed to me so much. It was also really good at parodying the teen dramas they were making fun of. For example, in Season 1, there is an episode where Gandhi goes to jail. As he is showering, a bunch of naked prisoners go up to him and say, "It's time for your initiation." Now at first, you're scared, because you think something bad is gonna happen to him. But, funnily enough, it turns out that the prisoners just wanted to cheer him on. And also, they turned out to be nice and soft prisoners. See, the joke was that the prisoners were not what you expected them to be. That was the punchline. What about the iconic joke of JFK driving his car and saying, "Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys," and then after he says that, he crashes his car? See, it's funny because if you know, the Kennedys have a long history of bad things happening to them. So it's funny that the same thing happens to a clone of JFK. You get the point. The jokes in Clone High were incredibly funny and well thought out. So what did Season 2 do? They replaced the jokes with excessive gore to the point where it's uncomfortable, sex jokes, and meta humor that's just, "OMG guys, this thing is cliche or dumb, but we're gonna do it anyway, please start laughing now." Ah! They also try to make fun of real-world things like cancel culture and white guy confidence, I think. I don't know. I often can't tell the show's intentions. I don't know if they're trying to even make fun of the topics or give, like social commentary. It's as bad as Velma bringing up random topical things into its show, thinking it's funny and smart. Yeah, it's that bad. Additionally, they try to make fun of nostalgia in episode 6. Let me add some context. So, in this episode, it's revealed that Joan has a thing called silly legs. Essentially, her legs go crazy when she has a lot of nostalgia for something. And if that nostalgia becomes toxic, she could die. Now, there is a line in the episode that Abe says that bothered me quite a lot.
No, that movie isn't as good as you remember, Joan. Really charming, but you gotta stop.
Excuse me? You know which generation got your show popular, right? You know without us Zoomers and our silly memes, this show would not have popped off in 2020, right? What is up with these adult animated shows getting mad at the audience? Like, do they not want us to see their show? Honestly, I'd rather prefer that. Also, it sucks that Clone High became exactly what it parodied back in its day. I was just imagining in my head how many teen dramas of today they could make fun of or reference to, like 13 Reasons Why, the insanity that is Riverdale, and the insane ways the teens of Euphoria look like. But they clearly don't care, do they? Let's just move on to the next topic and end this quickly because I want to finish this video. Now, I know the original Clone High had no messages or anything, because at the end of the day, it was a parody. But there was a very common theme in this show that got me interested in Clone High in the first place, besides the characters and comedy. That theme being that the clones will always be in the shadows of someone far greater than them. And no matter how much they try to run or reject their clone fathers or mothers, at the end of the day, that will never happen because they will always have to live up to the unrealistic expectations of the historical figures they are cloned from. Now, each character had their own way of handling this. Joan and Gandhi absolutely rejected their clone mother and father's legacy, so they tried to be themselves. Cleo and JFK, on the other hand, tried their hardest to live up to the real-life Cleo and JFK, which is why both of them are popular. And then there was Abe. Abe was kind of in the middle. He always strived to be like Abraham Lincoln, but he wasn't very good at it. I loved these moments in season 1 because we as an audience got to explore each character on a somewhat deeper level. Well, forget those themes, because as you can clearly tell, they are gone. Sure, it's hinted at, but it's never explored, because let's be honest, it seems like the writers could care less for these characters, especially the new ones. And I honestly wanted to see how these historical figures would play on the personalities of the new clones, or would somehow affect them. For example, yes, it does kind of make sense for Frida to be popular, since the real-life Frida was quite attention-seeking. Maybe they could have explored this concept with her, and maybe her chill personality could have been a way to reject the legacy of the real-life Frida Kahlo. Or if they gave Frida the actual personality of Kahlo, the relationship between Cleo and Frida would make much more sense. Let me explain. Like I said before, Frida in real life was known to be an attention seeker, which led her to have a bunch of affairs with both men and women. She also never tried to hide her body hair from people. She fully embraced it, and she always wanted to wear colorful clothing to stand out. Kind of like how Cleo from Clone High Season 1 fully embraced herself. Imagine if Clone High Frida had more of the real Frida's personality, wearing clothing that fully showed her body hair, and being promiscuous, and super confident, but her views on beauty are far different from Cleo's, because this time, Clone High Frida fully embraces her body hair, and she doesn't hide it at all. Do you see why I like the old design for Frida now? Therefore, if she kind of had a design like this, it would give Cleo more of a cultural shock. How can a girl that is popular not align with the old stereotypical beauty standards? But then, over time, Cleo and Frida can become friends, and then realize that they are both very similar, but they have different views on beauty and popularity. And then when they both fall in love with each other, it would make much more sense. But fuck all of that, because the only thing these writers know about Callow is that she does art and nothing else. That's the only thing they use for the character. I bet you they didn't even bother to do even a little bit of research for the clones, bro. What about Harriet and Confucius? Harriet has to live up to one of America's greatest abolitionists, a person who would constantly risk her life and freedom to save others. Hell, the real Harriet cared about others so much that at age 12, she got hit in the head by a heavyweight trying to save a fugitive. This injury would then cause her to have headaches, vivid dreams, and hallucinations later in her life. Now, knowing that there's a clone of Harriet Tubman, I would kind of expect her personality to be more brave and riskier, and taking the high initiative when it comes to things. Therefore, the chemistry between her and Joan would work much better if they gave it a little bit more time to breathe, though. Also, if she had that personality, it would make much more sense why she is a popular kid in these modern times. And maybe that risky part of her personality could become a character flaw or something. Look, I'm just asking for these characters to have a little bit of personality. Is that too much to ask for? Okay, now Confucius. In theory, Confucius would have a more chill personality if the show actually cared about these guys. Also, he would have a love for learning about life and the world if he was trying to live up to his clone father. Therefore, with Confucius, we could explore the pressures of knowing too much. And it would also make sense why he uses his phone a lot to find as much information as possible. But like the rest of the new characters, Confucius's legacy doesn't really affect Clone High Confucius. If it did, he would try seeking that wise personality trait, or it would be somewhat reasonable why he has a very hyper personality. If the writers actually wanted to explore these themes, Confucius's current personality could have been a way to reject his clone father's legacy, kind of like how Gandhi did with his clone father. It's just that Gandhi was actually funny and had a personality, unlike Confucius here. Wow, there was so much these writers could have done with these characters, but they chose to be lazy. Is everything in this season truly awful? Well, yes, but kind of no. See, that title was kind of clickbaity. Let me introduce you to the only good thing, in my opinion, this season had. Topher Bus. Ah, yes. I wanted to give Topher his own section because, like I said before, he honestly feels like the only good thing to come from this season. But they also decided to ruin him too. And I wanted to go a little in depth with his character. Before we talk about Topher, I want to mention that he is one of the only new clones that has a resemblance to his clone father. And he actually looks like a Clone High character that fits with the rest of the original cast. This is one of the reasons why I like him so much, but his terrible yet funny personality is the biggest reason why I got drawn to him in the first place. So, what's he like? Well, Topher tries to be very progressive and politically correct to distance himself from the legacy of his clone father, Christopher Columbus. See, this is what I was talking about. Finally, a character that is affected by the historical figure they are cloned from. But in reality, deep down, he is just a terrible person. And it seems like every second, he is on the brink of breaking down and actually revealing his terrible personality and beliefs. And honestly, I love him for that reason, because it makes him funny. Also, he has actual flaws and has the theme I was talking about just before. So, how do the writers handle Topher Bus? In episodes 1 and 2, he's great, but then they ruin him during the rest of the series. In episode 1, we're introduced to him, and he tells Abe that he is the clone of Christopher Columbus. And then he says something that made me visibly cringe on a whole other level.
Cool.
Not cool. While you were frozen, he got canceled for being a dirtbag. I'm trying to distance myself from my clone father. That's why I go by Topher Bus.
Like, why not say, while you were frozen, more people discovered that Columbus was a dirtbag, so I'm trying to distance myself from my clone father. Like, explain to me, how are we gonna get a guy that died like 500 years ago canceled? Are we gonna bring him back from the dead or something? I just feel like using the word canceled, especially for a historical figure that did awful things, is kind of distasteful to me, because it feels like they are downplaying Columbus's actions. Like, this isn't a celebrity that said something controversial. It's a historical figure that is finally getting the criticism he rightfully deserves. Maybe I'm thinking too much about this, but I couldn't be the only one who had a sour taste in my mouth when I heard that. And it doesn't take away my love for Topher, of course, but I just wish the show had writers that could handle this better. Like, yeah, it's funny that he plays a progressive facade to run away from his clone father's legacy, but I feel bad for him. Imagine all your life thinking you're the clone of someone great, only to discover years later that you were cloned from someone terrible. That must be a huge weight on Topher, one that could have been explored a little more. But at the end of the day, it's just my opinion, and it's one of the biggest reasons why I hate the first episode so much, because they don't know how to handle the subject of cancel culture, and they don't seem to care too much about it. I mean, the full episode shows that they don't care. It seems like they cared more about topical things than actually being funny. I'm getting sidetracked. So where was I? Oh yes, in episodes 1 to 2, Topher has the funny personality that I loved in the beginning. But then for the rest of the season, the writers get lazy. First off, why is he hated by everyone? What happened to him putting on the facade of being progressive to try to run away from his clone father's legacy so he can get along with everyone else? You would think more characters would like him while not seeing his true intentions. But then the writers try to make him more unlikable by making him say awful things. Things that honestly break his initial character of trying too hard to be progressive. This is such lazy writing. Oh my god. You were doing so good in episodes 1 and 2. What happened? Oh yeah. By the way, Topher doesn't even get that much screen time after episodes 1 and 2. Only being reduced to being a terrible person or a background character. Which absolutely devastates me because he was the treasure that came from this pile of garbage. But just like the rest of the characters, Topher lost his value in this season. Nobody made it out safe. Not even Topher, man. This is really f***ing disappointing. Holy shit. No, but I ain't joking here. I'm actually very distraught. Like, super distraught. Imagine waiting so many years for a show that got canceled so early, only for it to come back and give the fans a big ass middle finger. In conclusion, Clone High has become a husky shell of its former self. It's lost the charm and interesting aspects of its original characters, and the new characters are just either flat or uninteresting. The comedy has become generic and dull, and when there are good things initially, they just ruin it with their lazy writing. And it's really disappointing to watch, because honestly, Clone High deserved a really good season 2. It deserved to be in the spotlight again. It deserved to continue its legacy after its abrupt cancellation, and these writers didn't care at all. For 20 years, people have been wishing, praying, and begging for a season 2. And We got our wish. I can assure you that we got our wish, as you can tell. Just not in the way we wanted to. Honestly, I'm glad Gandhi didn't come back. Oh boy, I dread what they would have done to him if he came back. Please stay frozen, party animal, before they ruin you too. Let this be a lesson to always be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. Thanks for making it to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe and like for more content in the future. I will see you guys then. Bye bye.